since I was a little girl, I was introduced to animals and I loved them. But the thing that really got me into this field was the overpopulation of dogs and cats that we have here. I think seeing that as a kid really impacted me. And I will always try to find ways to help animals, like donating to shelters or volunteering. But then I discovered that I actually loved medicine and how through medicine I can educate owners and I can educate my community in the importance of being a responsible owner and how animals impact us directly. I've been working alongside a lot of animal welfare organizations, and it just really blew my mind how important this field is. And I actually want to specialize in shelter medicine due to that.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Crafting Wellness podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing you to Gabriela. For everyone who doesn't know you, could you just introduce yourself a little bit and tell us where you're from, where you live, and kind of what you do in the medical field?
First, my name is Gabriela Medina. I am from Puerto Rico. So I've been living here my whole life. I am currently a PreVet student, fourth year, studying biomedical sciences at the Inter-American University of Puerto Rico. So I'm not actually studying like an animal related type of career, but this can get me to vet school. So this is why I call myself a PreVet.
Oh, okay. Can you explain that a little
Yeah.
bit more for me who does not understand what that means?
Sure. A lot of people think that pre-vet students only study animal science or pre-veterinary um, or other animal related field in the undergrad bachelor's degree. But I feel like that is not true because for you to go to vet school, you don't need a bachelor's degree or you don't need a specific bachelor's degree. So I feel like anyone that it can be a person that's studying music or theater, but as long as you have the prerequisites and vet experience and animal experience and you're interested in entering vet school, I will call them a pre-vet student.
Okay, that makes sense. And
Yeah.
so after you get your bachelor's degree, then you're going to go to veterinarian school. Would that be the next step for that?
Yeah, I am gonna be applying on May and then I will take a gap year because you have to apply a year earlier. And then yes, I would go to veterinary school.
What are
Yeah.
you majoring in? What are you getting your bachelor's in science in?
In biomedical sciences.
Biomedical sciences.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you explain for everyone watching what exactly that entails?
Biomedical sciences usually um, people study it to get to med school. So it's basically human related. You take pharmacology, you take human anatomy, you take immunology, and everything that's related to human medicine. So I chose this bachelor's degree because I feel like humans and animals, even though people don't think they're related in the terms of medicine, they are. The basic knowledge is you can apply it to animals. So I wanted to choose a bachelor's degree that was related to medicine because I do love medicine. So this is why I chose it. And usually people that want to go to med school choose this bachelor's degree.
Okay. And so
Yeah.
are you in your senior year now? Are you in your final year? Yes.
Yes, I'm in my final year.
I've been following you and we've been checking you out and I know that you know, I think it's really important that we represent everyone in all fields because nursing is primarily been a focus of MDF for a long time because that's primarily our customer base. But nurses aren't the only ones who use stethoscopes, aren't the only ones who use medical equipment. Can you tell us a little bit about how you found your passion for animals and how you found your kind of way to study this and want to get into it? Is there something that like sparked in you, or did you always just love animals growing up, or how did you kind of fall into this?
Wow, I love this question. It's typical since I was a little girl, I was introduced to animals and I loved them. But the thing that really got me into this field was the overpopulation of dogs and cats that we have here. I think seeing that as a kid really impacted me. And I will always try to find ways to help animals, like donating to shelters or volunteering. But then I discovered that I actually loved medicine and how through medicine I can educate owners and I can educate my community in the importance of being a responsible owner and how animals impact us directly. So I think it's great because I got to that point due to the fact that I've been working alongside a lot of animal welfare organizations, and it just really blew my mind how important this field is. And I actually want to specialize in shelter medicine due to that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, for everyone watching who's never been to Puerto Rico, I've had the pleasure of visiting twice. Um, I love it. It's such a beautiful place, but they do have a lot of animals running around.
Yeah.
So here, you see a stray dog on the street, you're like, oh no, let me call the owner. Is it missing? Like there,
Yeah,
you have to get used to the fact that there are dogs just running around. And
definitely.
some of them are actually owned by people, but they still just to get to
Yeah.
like run around. Because when I first got there, I wanted to like save I'm like, oh my gosh, is this dog? Let's take this dog to the vet. And then you just realize there's so many
Yeah.
of them. But the
Yeah.
people, they feed them, and if the community comes
Yeah.
together, and they're all taken care of quite well, but they are like on the street animals. I remember when I was there, I found a
Yeah.
cat that was really hungry, and I named him Azul because he had blue eyes and he was really pretty. He was like this flat
That's so cute.
blue eyes, really big blue eyes, and I fed him like a whole piece of chicken. I got like chicken there, and I was like, oh, Azul, and he's just this like little skinny cat. But I know they sucker us in all the time for food, but
Yeah.
it's really important because I do know, I don't know if this is a prevalent thing in Puerto Rico, but I do know that sometimes I've noticed people like get very frustrated because the cat situation and the cats because they'll
Oh yeah.
populate. But I think it's really important that we treat animals with respect and love, and they teach us a lot of things.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and I could never understand hurting an animal or not wanting to help an animal because they're just innocent little creatures that need our love and care. So I love what you do, and I think it's incredible. So thank you so much for going to study that. And maybe one day I will
Thank
have you
you.
check out my doggy.
Yes, please.
um,
Yeah, and I think what you said, it's so true. And I think we should start by educating. Here in Puerto Rico, unfortunately, some people have this mentality that stray dogs are like super like durable, if I'm saying it correctly. Like they don't get disease, like they're fine, like they last long, so they don't take them to the vet.
mhm.
And that, yeah, and that leads to a lot of problems. And the cat thing, that's another problem because cats their reproductive cycle is very short. So you usually see more cats, and in studies you can see that there's more stray cats. And that's why I think one of the techniques that a lot of animal welfare organizations use, that is called TNR, trap neuter release, it's so important and it's so efficient because you trap a stray cat, and you sterilize it or castrate it, and then you release it. And yes, that cat can survive and you can feed it and all of that, but it's not um, making more babies and all of that stuff. So I think we should start here in the schools. I think there should be a program where they teach kids the importance of animal welfare and taking care of our animals, even when they're in the streets, and how that impacts our environment and ourselves because zoonotic diseases and all of that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's easy for people to see animals on the street, and if they're walking around and they look fine and they look healthy, just be like, oh, they're fine. They're just on the street doing their thing. And
Yeah.
like, no, no, no. They can have worms, they can have fleas, they can have ticks, they can have all kinds of problems
Agreed.
that you can't see. And we don't want people trying to deal with the overpopulation of the cats on their own. I saw some
Yeah.
cats that were dead, and it's like, what happened to them?
Yep.
It's a thing that we have to talk about because that's not the way to handle it. I think,
Yeah.
getting cats neutered so that they can't overpopulate is a great way. And just advocate for the animals and know that, they are important to our ecosystem, they're important to our lives.
Totally agree.
So it's a totally different mentality for animals. I
Yeah.
think there's a cultural thing in Puerto Rico with just
Yeah.
because they're everywhere. They're just like, oh, they're fine. They're just doing their thing.
Yeah.
And here, you see a dog on the street, you're like, wait, hold on. And so it was really weird getting
Yeah.
used to the fact that it's like, oh no, that's normal there. It's beautiful because now I'll just see like a donkey in the middle of the road. I'm like, this is it's so beautiful, like taking pictures.
Yeah.
I think Puerto Rico is it's such a beautiful, beautiful place. I absolutely
Thank
love it.
you.
Yeah, we're
Oh,
big
that's so nice to know.
we're big fans of your home.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. And yeah, the beaches though.
Oh my
Those, yeah. Old Town One, really
oh yeah,
love it.
so beautiful, so warm, so nice. Never
Yeah.
want to leave. So that brings me to what so I know your next step is just what is the test that you would take to get into veterinary school? So what is that test you're going to take in May called?
It is called the GRE and the TOEFL. I think
Okay.
that's how it's pronounced. In my particular case,
Mhm.
I do not have to take those because the universities I will apply to, I contacted them and they said that I don't need to take them. The GRE, some universities are taking it out. The TOEFL, I asked each university that I'm interested in, and I told them that I'm from Puerto Rico, and if there was any way, because I'm an American citizen, if there's a way that I don't have to take the test. And some universities said that I didn't have to.
Okay. So
Yeah,
do you start applying to schools in May then?
yeah,
Is that what you do? Okay, so you're gonna apply
yeah,
to schools in May, and then you're gonna take a gap year, which I think we should talk about
yeah,
that a little bit. I think it's
yeah.
really great and important to take a gap year, especially for you vet
Oh
students.
yeah,
When you're in school that long, I think it's really important to take a break, take a moment, take a beat, enjoy yourself a little bit,
definitely.
travel, whatever it is that you need to just take a rest or take prepare for school. So I'm really
Yeah.
curious why you chose to do a gap year.
At first, I was one of those students that was like, no, I'm gonna graduate straight to vet school. I was just like, that was my mentality because in college they sometimes teach you in an indirect way, that the faster you go, the better student you are, or this mentality that if you take a gap year you will get lazy and you won't get things done. So I was in that mentality, but then I realized I was studying for 4 years straight and then into vet school 4 more years, and I was like, I need this gap year because things are going to move too fast and I will have to move to another country where I don't know people. So I think I was like, let me take a break to organize myself, maybe find a job, um, maybe get prepared for vet school, get more hands-on experience, and take that year to really um, get synced in the fact that I'm gonna go to vet school, because I feel like if I were to graduate and then straight to vet school, it would be um, too hard on me and my mental health. So I was like, let me just take it easy. Vet school, it's not gonna move. So that's why I decided to take that gap year.
Yeah, I think that's so smart. I think there is no rush. A year isn't going to
Definitely.
make a difference. A year or two or
Mhm.
three is not going to make a difference.
Yeah.
I wouldn't let a fear of like, oh, people tell you, oh, once you're out of school, it's going to be so hard to get back in it. You're not going to want to do
Yeah.
it. It's not true because you tell yourself what you want to do and you are responsible for your own future. So if you want to, take a break, and I think that's great. I think taking a break is so smart because you are going to A, have the time to prepare yourself, like you
Mhm.
said, but B, also to you're going to grow a lot in that year. We change so much, especially when at such a young
Yeah.
age. In a year, the life experience that you'll gain just in that year is going to make you a different student. There's no harm in taking time, and I think everyone watching should not be afraid to take that time.
Yeah.
And don't let anyone rush you because school is always there. It's not going to go anywhere.
And thank you for pointing that out, because a lot of people do feel like I used to feel. And I feel like that's so important to put it out there and to take care of our mental health, and be aware where we stand and our limits, because I feel like, especially in graduate school, we need to have that awareness, because it is so hard and you have to cramp a lot of material and all that. So I think from an early age, you should be able to be aware of that in order to be successful and not experience, or try not to experience, burnout and all of that.
Yeah, because you think about it, you've been in school your whole life, and then you're going to go even
Yeah.
prolong school even longer to get into the field you want to get into. And then once you started, it's not like you're going to stop. It's like not like once you become a
Yeah.
veterinarian, you're not going to be like, oh, I'm just going to take a gap year this year, just
Yeah.
veterinarian for like a year, because it's not
Hmm.
going to work like that. Once you start and you get into it, you're going to fly, and you're going to be doing that until
Exactly.
you retire or decide to do something else. So I think it's really smart and really great to take that time for yourself. And I'm glad that we talked about that. I'm curious. I have two questions for you now. First question is, where are you looking to apply? Like, what are your dream schools? Because you said you might go somewhere away from Puerto Rico. So I'm curious where you're
Yeah.
thinking of going.
Okay, so my first option is the University of Florida, because they have a shelter medicine program. And I met one of the professors, and I feel like the program is just perfect for me, and the place too. I feel like it would be leaving home, but then going to a place where it's kind of similar like home. Like it would be a much smoother transition. My second option would be Cornell University, because they do have a shelter medicine program as well. And for some reason, I always loved that university. I feel like I visited once, and it was so big, and I met one of the professors as well, and they told me about the program, and I think that program would fit perfectly for me. And my third option would be Michigan State University, because I read about their program, and they don't have a shelter medicine program, but what I love about that university is that it has a lot of diversity. And a lot of my professors have told me that as a Puerto Rican student, it is harder to get into vet school because there's barely any diversity. They've always told me that my whole life. So I've been worried about that part, and seeing that Michigan State University has this staple of being diverse, I really love that. So that's my third option.
Those all sound like wonderful options.
Yeah,
You're gonna have to keep us posted because I'm gonna be dying to find out where you end up.
of course.
I'm gonna follow your journey and we'll have to have you back on.
Of
Okay, so
course.
I have another question for you because you talk a little bit about mental health and like burnout.
Mm.
What do you do for yourself to kind of like give back to yourself, and advice you have for everyone watching who might be experiencing some sort of anxiety over school or depression or just not sure of their life? Like what do you do for yourself and what advice do you have for everyone watching?
Wow, that's a very important question, and thank you for that. I honestly have been feeling burnout recently, right now, and I gotta admit that it's really hard. It's not easy going through it, but what I like to do is move. I like to work out because I feel like that helps me be more active. And the second thing I love to do is go to a shelter, go to a veterinary clinic, and just to remind myself, why am I studying this? Another thing that it's really important, and I know for some people it is very hard, it is hard for myself, but at least take once a week, 1 day a week, to just focus on you and do things that you love, like maybe a spa day or a self-care day. I feel like that is so important because sometimes if we follow a routine, we can get really tired of it and we could get very unmotivated. So I feel like at least once a week, getting that time for yourself and to spend time with friends outside of everything related to college, I feel like that really, really helps.
Yeah, I think that sentiment is exactly true. I think you have to constantly, and the earlier you can start implementing that into your life, I think the earlier you can say, I make the list of priorities. You know, I'm
Definitely.
doing my mental health is a priority, and my physical health is a priority, and my spiritual health is a priority. I think it's really important to get into that habit just as much as you would the habit of studying or the
Mhm.
habit of waking up early to make sure you get to class. I think it's it's really important that we uh, do whatever that is and find that thing for you. You know, it's going to be different for everybody else. You know, for me, it's exercising and it's spa stuff. It's face masks and it's kind of self-loving that way. But for someone else, it might be meditation. It might be
Yeah.
coffee. It might be a bath. It might be
Mhm.
something else. But I think it's really important to find that thing and to make sure that you make the list of priorities as often as you can, because you can't um, give to your studies or give to your family or give to your friends if you're kind of pouring from an empty cup. So it's really important that we like replenish ourselves, especially for med students, nursing students. And
Definitely.
it's what you guys are trying to do is extremely
Yeah.
difficult, and it takes a lot of brain power and a lot
Mm.
of time and a lot of perseverance and a lot of failing. I
Yeah.
think that's another thing I'd like to just bring up is that just because you fail a test or you fail something doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing it or you're not good enough to be doing it. It just means you failed, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Pick it up and go again. Failing
Yeah.
is not it's not a big deal. And I think
Definitely.
college, it can feel like that, like, oh my gosh, I failed.
Yeah.
But that's when actually you learn and grow the most. You don't
Yeah.
learn when you're winning all the time.
Mhm.
You learn when you go through the
Definitely.
hard stuff. When you go through the hard stuff, whether it's mental or not, that's the things that make you stronger. And that's the things that are going to have you have the resilience that you need to get to the other side of what you're trying to do. So,
I completely agree with that, and thank you for bringing that up about failing. I think I've felt that way. I felt like, oh my god, I didn't get an A on this class. Am I gonna get accepted into vet school? Because a lot of people have told me that I have to have a perfect GPA and all of that. And I've learned the hard way that, okay, listen, I am not good in chemistry. I did my best, but when I go to that interview, I know I will be me and I will show me in that application. So I think that's another thing that pre-vet students should know, that it's okay to not have a perfect GPA or not have the perfect score. You know, it's about heart. And I think when you do things by heart and because you feel passionate about them, things just flow, honestly, because I've learned that the hard way by failing. And it's really rewarding when you look at back and you're like, okay, I've grown so much, and even though maybe I don't have the perfect GPA, I do want this. And I think that's the most important thing: drive, passion. And when you have that, everything just falls into place because you just work for it naturally.
I couldn't agree with you more. That's
Mhm.
so beautifully said. Yes, everyone listen to her. She knows what she's talking about.
Thank you.
Can
Sure.
you tell us a little bit about what you like to do when you're not studying, when you're not in school, dedicating your entire life to become a veterinarian, what does Gabriela like to do with her time?
I honestly love theater so much. And when I was in high school, I would participate in plays. And I feel like I would consider that my hobby. I love theater. I'm taking theater class right now. And it's just so beautiful, the process of acting and learning a monologue, or just experiencing that, just getting into a character. I've always loved that. I love singing as well, so I'm more into, when I'm not in the field, I love arts. I honestly love singing, theater, all things that have to do with art. I love meditating and yoga. I feel like that's such a beautiful way to express yourself and be aware of your body and be aware of what you can do, and you just notice, okay, wow, my body can actually do this, and be grateful for it. So yeah, outside of the field, I am more of a theater kid type of gal.
Yeah, I think when you brought up yoga, it's really interesting because I like to do yoga as well. And sometimes you'll be in a pose and it yoga can really teach you things. It can teach you like when you're in the challenge of a pose that's extremely difficult, you have to breathe through it and you have to hold it and you just have to breathe, focus on your breath. But as you move through that, you get to the other side of it and it teaches you a lot about life. Like instead of running away from the pain, if we actually stay with the pain and we go through the hard part, then the next time we do that pose, it's a little easier. And by the time a year or two passes, we can do that pose no problem, or we're like deeper in the pose, or we're more flexible. And we're like, wow, look at this progress I made in just a year's time.
Yeah.
Because you're not running from the pain, you're not running from the challenge, you're facing it. And I think that's a great life lesson, is by like meeting the challenge, rising to the occasion. That's what's going to make you grow, that's what's going to make you stronger, that's what's going to make you better, that's what's going to make you more successful. So I think it's yoga is a great way, a sentiment that goes with what you've been talking about. And also, I find this so interesting because I've done a few of these podcasts now, and when I'm speaking to people who are naturally empathetic because they care for animals or they want to care for people, they want to help people, they want to make people feel better, like you, um, they always have a creative outlet, like whether it's singing or acting or painting, um, or blogging, writing, they always have some creative outlet. And I think that's really interesting and something to take a look at for everyone watching as well. That because I think what you guys do is can be so emotionally draining and so emotionally taxing, because you care and because you're putting your heart out there, for the animals, for the people, that you have to have a way to kind of take that in and then find an outlet to express it. And it doesn't surprise me at all that you're into theater, because empathy is the number one thing that it takes to be an actor. So, and I can tell you have a great empathetic heart. So keep doing that.
And it's so great to know, because it just, you know, I would get so into getting into vet school all my life, getting into vet school, that sometimes people will ask me, okay, so what are your hobbies? And I'll be like,
Uh,
actually, I,
like,
yeah, I'm like, wait, and then since that awareness moment, I was like, okay, I have to go outside of veterinary medicine. What do I like? What brings me happiness? And then I realized that it was theater, and just being creative, and getting into all of that, singing. I feel like you take that moment, and somehow just take out the stress, and it's just very different from being involved in a clinic or something. So it just takes away a little bit of that, like you said, of being drained, and because you're in a different scenario, a different environment.
yeah, no, that's good. And I think that's a really great point too, because I think that happens with anybody that's super focused on their career or super focused on a dream. It could just become everything. Like because you love what you do, it can easily be a hobby. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like because you love animals, going to a clinic on the weekend to help them, it's technically kind of studying, it's technically kind of work, but it's
Mhm.
also a hobby because you like it. So
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's beautiful. I just think it's also important to remember that um, we have to even as painful sometimes, we have to like find
Mhm.
those other outlets because
Yeah.
for people who are going after a dream or they're going after something with their whole heart and they know this is what I want to do, you can become hyper super focused on it and kind of lose sight of
Mhm.
the other things in your life. So I think it's great that you found yoga and you found theater, and I encourage everyone watching to remember that and also to just find other outlets as well because it will only make you a better doctor, it'll only make you a better vet, it will only make you a better nurse because you're living your life and experience and having other experiences, staying well rounded, and yeah, so I think that's a really important
Yeah.
thing to talk about. That's awesome.
Definitely.
Yeah, okay, so I have um I started this thing now where I ask you if there's anybody that you would want to nominate to be on the podcast. And what I mean by that is if you have anyone that you know, and they don't necessarily have to be in the medical field, that inspires you or motivates you, or someone you think that you could have a good talk with on the podcast. And there's no pressure if you don't have anyone you want to nominate. But if you do, let me know because we can do another follow-up podcast and have them and you on, and then I could kind of just sit back and moderate, and if not, I could always find too, if you don't have anyone, I could always find someone who's in veterinary school in Florida or in
Okay.
somewhere where you want to be, and then you can get on and talk to them, and they can answer questions because they're a little bit further in the journey than you,
Sure.
and kind of connect you that way as well. So
Oh, well, that sounds amazing. So if we, if we could do both,
yeah.
just an idea.
Yes, yes.
But definitely, I have a person. I've been following this girl for a while. She's a pre-vet too and a senior. She's called Melissa Ruiz. Um, in Instagram, she's Dr. Melissa. And I feel like we connected so much through this journey. And I feel like we both have different perspectives because she is studying um, a bachelor's degree on, I think, animal science or animal related. So it would be cool to see like the different experiences and all that. So
Yeah,
definitely her.
I love that. So
Yeah.
let's make that happen. Let's get her and you on again.
Yeah.
And then maybe I can even get a third person who's already maybe in the middle of veterinary school here, and see if we can all get on and do a fun little podcast where we all kind of talk about where we are, because I think it's great too for people watching. So many people are in different stages, and it's always great to look up
Definitely.
online and say, oh my gosh, okay, well, they're doing something similar. It may not be exactly the same, but they're doing something
Mhm.
similar to what I'm doing. And how did they go? How did they approach it? Where are they in their journey? And how what advice did they have? And how did they get there? Because it gets interesting as you talk to people on different levels of their journey. It's really fun to kind of
Yeah,
see.
definitely. I really agree with that.
Well, Gabriela, thank you so much for joining our Crafting Wellness podcast. It's been such a pleasure having you on, and I can't wait to have you on again. And for everyone
Of
watching,
course.
I'm going to link all of her information, her Instagram, and everything below, so that you can go check her out and follow her journey. And I'm sure if you have any questions, if you're thinking about getting into veterinary medicine, or questions about Puerto Rico and what it's like studying there, I'm sure she'd be happy to answer those questions.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor and I'm so humbled, really. Thank you.
Thank you.